So one of the things that I used to do all the time, and I'm sure it's not just me, I'm sure it's a bunch of pros because it only makes sense. They just ask really, really good questions, right? And I feel like that's something that you guys may be lacking. And obviously, it's a super generalization, but I do feel like the majority of you guys aren't curious enough. You don't ask the right amount of questions during VOD review, during replays. You need to have a conversation with yourself when you're watching something. You need to be like, okay, could he have played this better? Why don't I do this? What is the difference between Noah Riley and me here other than mechanics? What does he do very specifically that's not speed, but it's everything else that I don't do, right? Is it his movement? Is it his accurate, aim that it gets him out of situations? Clearly not, because I feel like there's more to it than that. But if you never believe there's more to it, how are you ever supposed to get to the point to ask that question? Right? It doesn't make sense to not be curious about the game and get better. It doesn't make sense at all, honestly. I feel like you can only get so far just by playing the game and then, not being curious and just like getting better through repetitions. You need to actually think to yourself, there's a deeper reason why pros do things. There's a deeper reason why they rotate this way. And our goal is to actually learn that intuition and apply it ourselves. And then that's how you get really, really good. First, like to apply anything at all, right? Anything that you see the pro do, you need to understand why they do it. Right? And whenever you're VOD reviewing, that's what your goal is. You're not trying to VOD review to sort of be like, oh, I'm just watching back my mistakes so I can absorb them, and like I'm just watching back my gameplay so I can feel good when I make a good play. That's not why, right? The main reason you're doing it is to ask questions and then find the answers to those questions. How could I have played this better? You don't end it there, obviously. You find the answer to that question. But how are you supposed to find the answer to the question if you never ask questions in the first place? And I feel like this is something that a lot of people lack. They're like, Zycoma, how do I VOD review? Zycoma, how do I get better at the game and sort of critically find my mistakes? Why do I feel like I need your videos all the time? You don't. You honestly don't. Obviously, I have experience in this game. I've played the game for 3 years. I can give a better answer faster because of the experience that I have. But I feel like so many people lack the ability to VOD review because they're so innately uncomfortable with the idea of feeling confused in a VOD review. Then you have to ask yourself, like, how did I do it? Like, how did I get to the point where I can answer most questions about Fortnite? How did I do it? I was confused at first, right? The difference is that I was comfortable with being confused and I just kept pushing. I just kept going, right? So when VOD reviewing a pro, I'll have questions that are unanswered. Like, okay, why did he do this sort of movement? I have it unanswered at the very beginning. I don't know why, right? Obviously, I'm curious, so I try my absolute best to sort of come up with an answer, but sometimes some questions are just unanswered. Cool. Let's keep that on the side. I write it down or something and just move on. Eventually, I'll find enough situations where that sort of same scenario happens, and then I find a pattern. And then you could start realizing, okay, like this is why they're doing it, right? Maybe it's because their HP is too low. That's why they're expanding the box. And they're making more space. Almost every pro makes space when they're low. And I feel like that's a pattern, right? And I feel like that a lot of people don't recognize that right away. And then when they get into a fight and they're low HP, they don't expand. And then they're stuck in one box where someone takes their wall and then it's over. And then they're like, oh, okay, like zero ping. Like I couldn't have done anything better there. Definitely not, dude. During my time as a player, I've been VOD reviewing over and over and over, and maybe too much to an extent. And I feel like a lot of times I could have spent more time on my mechanics and the actual execution of the game. But all that time VOD reviewing has helped me sort of come up with an understanding of the game and sort of come up with the questions and answers for any situation that I sort of look at. And I feel like it's super easy for me to come up with the answers, but only after all of the effort of unanswered questions, right? But at least don't feel sort of have the courage to go for those questions, right? Don't feel sort of bad just because you asked a question and couldn't find the answer. It doesn't mean you don't know how to VOD review. It just means you have an unanswered question. Like, that's it. And I feel like you need to feel comfortable with that concept of like having an unanswered question, moving on and coming back to it later if you need to. Eventually come back because you should feel curious. Like, okay, why does Noah really do this? Like, why does he play it this way? Right? And then you watch a different pro and then they play it the same way. Clearly, there's a pattern there. Clearly, they're doing it on purpose. Clearly, there's benefit or value by playing it this way. So let's try to figure it out. Once we figure out a reason, the reason is going to be very nice for us because then we know exactly when to apply it in our own games, because the reason gives a lot of clarity as to why we should play it that way. Either way, guys, ask the right questions, and more importantly, just try asking any question. That's where I would start. Don't worry about asking the right questions. If anything, if you feel very sort of overwhelmed with the idea of VOD reviewing and coming up with sort of good questions to ask, just ask any questions, right? And I'm talking, when I say ask questions, I don't mean to other people, I mean to yourself, right? Ask yourself the right question. That'll start the conversation between you and yourself to sort of come up with the answer, and that will help you learn and actually think critically. It'll improve your critical thinking skills even if you never come up with the answer, because at least you're attempting it, right? You're sort of building the muscle of critical thinking, and that'll help you in the future no matter what, whether it's Fortnite, whether it's non-Fortnite, but especially in Fortnite, because I feel like you need to come up with the answers to those questions. And if you do, then you'll start to understand the game better. And that's how it works. That's really how it works. And start doing this, you'll see the effect of it, and you'll come back to the comments and sort of thank me later. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Really work hard and trying to improve. I feel like that's one thing that we all have in common with each other. We all want to improve and get better at the game, so let's make sure we do it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.